My name's Steve Stafford, and I want to take the opportunity to welcome you here today on behalf of Justice Wagner and her family. This is a very, very momentous occasion. Very momentous occasion for Justice Wagner and her family, for sure. Your support and attendance is very much appreciated. Everyone in attendance today has a special connection to Justice Wagner and her family. Unfortunately, time will not permit us to individually recognize everyone, even though everyone is important, and I'm certain that everyone has something that they'd like to say about Justice Wagner. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do all that. Suffice to say, your presence is very much appreciated, and you're all very much appreciated for the contributions you've made to her life and career thus far. So thank you for being here and for all you've done to help Justice Wagner achieve what she has thus far accomplished. Before I get started, I want to make some introductions. First of all, I'd like to introduce the Supreme Court, and if you would, please hold your applause until we've made all the introductions. We have Chief Justice Holly Kirby, Retired Justice Roger Page, Justice Jeff Bivens, Justice Sarah Campbell, and Justice Dwight Tarwater. Also want to make some special introductions, and if you would stand, and again, everyone, please hold your applause until we've got these introductions made, and then we can give everyone a round of applause. We have with us today Congressman David Kustoff. There he is. We have Tennessee Secretary of State Trey Hargett, and there he is. Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti. There he is. Retired Judge Butch Childers. There he is. And a person who doesn't know he's going to be introduced, but Coble Caperton, who worked so hard to put everything together here today. Coble, there you are. Let's give these folks a round of applause, please. I also want to recognize all the elected, appointed government officials, all the judges, trial judges, appellate judges, retired judges. So if you would all please stand, please. Now, if everyone would join me, if I get everyone to stand, please. We're not going to give you all a round of applause, but we could. We're going to have the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the national anthem. I'm going to ask Reverend Dr. Jackie Gatliff, who is the Senior Associate Pastor of Christ Methodist Church, to come and give us the invocation. That will then be followed by the pledge by Ben and Will Owen, and then the national anthem by Effie Johnson.
Just as this is an important marker in the life of Justice Mary Wagner and her family, it is also an important one for the state of Tennessee, of which we are very aware. So let's quiet our hearts and focus our minds that we may be attentive to the presence of the one true and living God, who has both authored and ordained this day. Join me in prayer. Our gracious and majestic God, powerful is your arm, strong is your hand. Your right hand is lifted high in glorious strength. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Unfailing love and truth walk before you as attendants. And as we witness the investiture of the Honorable Mary Wagner as Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Tennessee, we also seek your rich, promise-filled blessings upon her husband Tom and sons Ben and Will. And we seek the same blessing on your servant as she enters this honored position of judicial responsibility that you have called her to. May Justice Wagner faithfully live into this call, bringing to her duties a responsive heart, enlightened perception, and a determined will. We ask that your Spirit impart to her all that she needs so that through her, the expression of law can be seen as majestic in its impartiality, yet warm in its human care, rational in principles, yet sympathetic in application. May she continue to show that she is able to live faithfully the biblical instruction that judges must always be fair. Lord God, we pray that she will receive all she needs as it comes from your hand with abundant grace and great joy. And may she always be mindful that the people she serves are your people who bear your image, as we pray all of these things in the matchless name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The brave.
Well, I knew I was way in over my head when I started. But following those three, I got a real problem. My name's Steve Stafford, and some of you are sitting out there going, who is that short guy up there, and why is he even up here? I'm here because I had the good fortune 15 years ago to be appointed to the Tennessee Court of Appeals, and I went to the University of Memphis Law School and interviewed some senior law students and got the opportunity to ask a young lady to come and work with me for a year. That happened to be Justice Mary Wagner. The funny story about the law school and actually the interview process was, this was the old law school not downtown, but out by the campus of the University of Memphis. And I was given a list of people I was supposed to interview. I was interviewing about 8 people. And at least 4, maybe 5 were women. And I knew that Mary was a top candidate because she had been clerking for Judge Butch Childers, and Butch had just really raved on not only the work she did, but the breakfast casserole that he made her fix every Friday morning. So I thought that's not a bad way to start things off. But so I lost my list of applicants. And so every woman that walked in, I'd turn around and say, Mary? Well, Mary was the last applicant. So you can only imagine how those 4 or 5 other people felt when they walked in the room. Anyway, Mary spent a year with me in working with our office in Dyersburg, and we had what I believe to be a really good year. And I want to tell you 3 quick things about Mary that perhaps you don't know, and I think this is a good time to share that. Surprisingly, Mary can get a little aggravated at times. I know, Tom, that's a shock to you, isn't it? Our office was a little bit more casual than other offices, so we dressed casually. Jeans, boots. And Mary's office was across the hall. And when something would aggravate Mary, and it would happen quite often, Mary would come to my office with her cowboy boots on and announce herself by doing this. You boys have heard not to do that, I'm sure, right? Well, that's what your mother would do. Anyway, it was an interesting way to enter the office. Mary's also a very soft touch. You may not know that either. But my wife decided while Mary was there clerking with us that she needed a dog because our youngest daughter had graduated from high school. So Mary took it upon herself to find a dog, and this was a process. The dog that we currently have, Mary initially picked out for herself and subsequently gave to my wife, and my wife took him, and we've had him for the past 15 years. Guess what his name is? Wagner. But Mary's also something that many of you are not surprised about, and that is she is the consummate professional. She makes everyone that she works with look better. She works hard. She thinks about what she's doing. She takes a position, and once she takes that position, she's there. In fact, I call her the consummate professional because I paid her what I believe is the ultimate compliment. When she left her clerkship with us, and I was talking with the University of Memphis folks about getting another clerk, they said, "What do you want?" I said, "Well, real simple. I want another Mary Wagner." So there you go. I told Tom that I had something that I needed to say about him, and he kind of, I think cringed would be the appropriate word. But Tom and Mary, I knew them before they were married, and they had a really interesting relationship because Tom's got this unique hobby. I don't know if many of you know about it, but Tom likes to travel across states, counties, whatever it may be, and he's always looking for the highest point of the county. It's called high pointing. I'd never heard of it before. But that's how Tom and Mary would spend their time on dates, as I understand it, riding around counties looking for the highest point in the county. That's how it was shared with me, anyway. I live in Dyer County, and just north of Dyer County is Lake County. And it's not really a wise thing to do to pull up in someone's yard in Lake County and say, hey, I'm looking for the highest point in Lake County here. So anyway, I think I failed to share with y'all before I started that I talked with Mary when she asked me to do this. She asked me, she told me she wanted to do this, me to do the MC thing, and I said, you sure about that? And she said, yes. And I said, well, okay, how do you want to proceed? Do you want this to be, you know, serious and somber, or do you want it to be fun? She said, well, I want it to be fun, but I don't want you to embarrass me. I said, I can do half of that. So, having said all that, we need to get to the people who really have something to say here today. And I want to introduce our next three speakers together. They're all good friends. They're good friends to Justice Wagner. They're all just, I can't think of a better way to describe them than just wonderful public servants. The first person you're going to hear from is Chief Justice Holly Kirby. Justice Kirby got appointed to the Court of Appeals in 1995, where she served until she was appointed to the Supreme Court in 2014. She was elected as Chief Justice in 2023. After Chief Justice Kirby concludes, we'll hear from Justice Roger Page, who is now retired and who looks so much better now that he's retired. Justice Page was elected to the Circuit Court in 1998. He was appointed to the Court of Criminal Appeals in 2011, to the Supreme Court in 2016, and as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in, I believe, 2021, and he served there until 2023. And for those of you who don't know this, Governor Lee had designated August as Chief Justice Roger Page Month in Tennessee. So the only guy I know that's ever had that honor. And finally, we will hear from retired Judge Brandon Gibson, who was appointed to the Court of Appeals in 2014, where she served until 2019 when she left to join Governor Lee's administration. I have had the privilege of serving with all three of these people and cannot say enough good things about them. And they, I'm sure, will have good things to say about Justice Wagner. Chief Justice Kirby.
Good afternoon. It's my privilege and my joy to be here today on behalf of the Tennessee Supreme Court for the investiture of Mary Wagner to the court. The vacancy was created by the retirement of our dear colleague, Justice Roger Page. You'll get to hear from him in a minute, and you'll see why we were all sad to lose him as a colleague on the court. But to fill that position, Governor Lee could have made no finer choice than to appoint Mary Wagner. She has the integrity, the intellect, the work ethic, the compassion, and the old-fashioned common sense needed to be an excellent justice on our state's highest court. So mention has been made in the media that Mary Wagner's investiture once again gives us a majority of women on the court. That's true, and it's a little bit of a point of pride for me. But the real record here is that between Justice Sarah Campbell and Justice Wagner, they have a total of 5, count them, 5 rowdy boys under the age of 12. I haven't researched it, but I bet we're the only state Supreme Court with that distinction. From a personal standpoint, I take special pride in Mary Wagner's appointment, having followed her career over the course of many years in Shelby County. I first met Mary when she served as law clerk to my dear friend Steve Stafford, when he and I were both colleagues on the court. Judge Stafford thought very highly of her, and I know that he has very high standards, so that got my attention. Afterward, I followed Mary Wagner's career in Shelby County. She quickly rose to a leadership position in local politics, and at the same time, she earned a reputation as a smart, scrappy trial lawyer who was not afraid to try a case. In 2016, Governor Haslam, with advice and counsel from his then legal counsel, Dwight Tarwater, appointed Mary Wagner to the circuit court bench. She was then only barely into her 30s. At the time, several experienced Memphis lawyers voiced skepticism about whether she could do the job. Knowing Mary as I do, I thought, you just wait. Judge Wagner's appointment to the trial bench at such a young age invited comparisons to Judge Julia Gibbons, who is with us today. Judge Gibbons is an icon in Tennessee, who was appointed by then Governor Alexander to the Shelby County Circuit Bench in 1981 at age 30. Back then, Judge Gibbons faced open skepticism straight to her face every day. She responded by remaining unfazed and just doing the work. Now, of course, we know that Judge Gibbons is regarded as one of our nation's finest judges. Reflecting on those early days on the circuit court bench, Judge Gibbons said, "I knew it was going to work out fine when the same lawyers who were horrified started claiming it was their idea." And so it was with Mary Wagner. Judge Wagner just came to the courtroom and did the work. Every day, she did the work. Pretty soon, all the lawyers began to see that Judge Wagner was more than up to the task. In fact, they came to embrace her. In both of her elections as a trial judge, Judge Wagner earned bipartisan and virtually universal support from the Shelby County legal community. After Governor Lee appointed Judge Wagner to be Justice Wagner, I attended events in Memphis honoring her. Lawyers of all stripes were thrilled for Judge Wagner, but sad to be losing her from the trial bench. The consistent comment that I heard over and over was that Judge Wagner was never perceived as a plaintiff's judge or a defendant's judge. The lawyers told me she approached each case impartially, looked objectively at the facts, did her best to discern the law, and then applied it to reach the result the law required. As a judge, there can be no higher praise than that. Mary Wagner is tested and ready. She will be an excellent justice on our state's highest court. So, welcome, Justice Wagner. Welcome to our court. We look forward to working with you for many years to come.
Good afternoon. As Judge Stafford said, I can't really see any of you, so I'm just going to talk and pretend you're all out there and very interested in what I have to say. I am excited to be here to honor Justice Wagner and her investiture today. I knew from the first time I met her many years ago that she was going to be a star in the legal profession. I assumed by this time, Congressman Kustoff, she'd be in your position, or Governor may be in your position, but I'm glad that she's decided to pursue a judgeship and a career in the judiciary instead. I remember just a little over 8 years ago when Governor Haslam was swearing her in as a circuit judge here in Shelby County. He commented that it's the first time he had ever sworn in a judge with crackers in her pocket, because at that time I think Ben was a year and a half maybe, and he needed something to tide him over till we get to something else. Those things were called, what is it, fish hooks? What is it, Mary? Not fish hooks, what are they? Goldfish. Yeah, yeah. It's not the kind of fish you carry in your pocket, I promise you. Justice Kirby, Chief Justice Kirby alluded to Mary's political career a little bit. You know, she ran for office as a circuit judge in 2018 and also in 2022, and both times she got over 74,000 votes in Shelby County. That's more than any of us ever got in votes on the stage here, some of us who ran in the retention elections, and I'm sure she'll do better than that when she runs coming up in 2026. You know, there are several things that a judge needs: humility, honor, sense of humor. You know, some things that start getting more important, like experience. Mary has that. She needs role models. She had that with Judge Butch Childers and Judge Steve Stafford. But there are two things that are the most important, I think: work ethic and integrity. If you don't have those things, you're not very much judge. I've known Mary long enough now to know that she has the highest integrity and the best work ethic of any of our judges in the state. She's right there in the top 4 or 5. You know, she's intelligent. That helps a little bit. She was 4th in her class, notes editor. No question that she has the intelligence to do this job. And she is joining a great group of people. Some of the, at one time we were called one of the most conscientious courts in the state, the most congenial courts in the country, and I think that is true. I'm proud that Mary Wagner is my successor on the bench. No, it's not my position, it's not her position, it's the position of the people of the state of Tennessee. And Mary's always treated that way. Don't ever forget how you got here. I'm going to close by just sharing a prayer with all of you that I made this up myself when I became a trial judge, and I've never really shared it publicly before. But every day for 26 years before I took the bench, I would say, Lord, in a quiet place, give me the wisdom of Solomon, the patience of Job, the humility of Paul, and help me as I make my decisions today, that they will be correct under the law, and most of all, pleasing to you. And Mary, this is a big day for you, and I know it's a big day for your family. I know your parents are proud of you, and I know that you will not let this job just totally consume you. You've got a good handle on many other things in life to keep you grounded. So good luck to you as you serve for the next 30 years.
Justice Page, if you're giving those grandkids fish hooks, they might not be so nice to you when you reach old age. What a pleasure it is to be here with all of you. It feels like homecoming. The members of the Tennessee Supreme Court, and I see many of my judicial friends out in the audience. It's so good to be with you. Mary, I was cleaning out my closet last weekend, and I came across my Mary Wagner for Circuit Court Judge t-shirt and my Mary Wagner Circuit Court Judge koozie. I really thought about bringing both, wearing actually one of them, bringing a beverage in the other, but I was afraid that given your position now, you might hold me in contempt. It's such an honor to be with all of you today and to see the support for who is my friend and many of your friends as well, Mary Wagner. I got to know Mary best in 2016 when she came on the circuit court, and I got to interact with her quite closely at judicial conferences, as well as throughout her career and my career on the Court of Appeals and her career on the circuit court bench. I might have gotten to grade 1 or 2 of Mary's papers, And because, like all of you, I know her intellect, I am so thankful that she is not currently grading my papers. I fear very much that you would see reversed and remanded instead of what every appellate judge wants to hear from the Supreme Court, which is affirmed. I want to acknowledge three people who are in the audience today. The governor's legal team is here. Aaron Merrick is the governor's legal counsel, along with Alexa Witcher and Rob Mitchell are here today. Aaron normally has this spot in the program, and I'm so appreciative, given my friendship with Mary, that Aaron was willing to let me take the mic and the podium for this particular investiture. As many of you may know, getting to the point of getting to the governor's office is quite a challenge and quite a journey. All of the members of the Supreme Court who are here have been through that process, as have I, when I was on the Court of Appeals with Governor Haslam, who was then the governor. The governor's council sends 3 names to the governor's office, and then Aaron's team has the wonderful responsibility of really putting them through their paces and grueling interviews. And then the governor selects one of the 3. The governor's been completely blessed over the course of 6 years to have hard decisions every time he makes a judicial selection. I've been privileged to watch Governor Bill Lee make a lot of judicial appointments over the last 6 years. Frankly, I've lost count, but I bet the legal team down there knows the number off the top of their head. He approaches every single judicial appointment with the focus and seriousness that the judicial branch deserves. I do want to say one thing for the lawyers in the group that are here today that will appear in front of Justice Wagner. You know, in case you don't know this, Justice Wagner has the tendency to maybe be a little quiet. But let me give you a piece of advice. When she speaks, listen, because wisdom comes from her. She may have been young when she was appointed to the circuit bench. She may be young on the Supreme Court, but she is filled with wisdom and intellect of an individual far greater in age than she is. I have such enormous respect for her, and it is that wisdom and intellect that I believe convinced the governor to appoint her to the Supreme Court. It's always really difficult when you get tasked with the responsibility of introducing your boss, who also happens to be the governor of the great state of Tennessee. He truly needs no introduction, and we're thrilled to have him here today to celebrate Justice Wagner. Ladies and gentlemen, the 50th governor of the state of Tennessee, Bill Lee.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chief Gibson, Brandon. First of all, I have to say, who knew all these lawyers could be so funny? So I will be an engineer, and I'll be serious. You have brought together a room full of very special people and highly esteemed members of the judicial branch, and Secretary Hargett and John Scrimetti, and you've assembled your friends and your family for what's an incredibly important moment, and I'm honored as I can be to be standing here with you at this point to celebrate that. Congressman Kustoff as well. Sorry, I see it is hard to see, but you have brought together a lot of folks. The most important in some ways, or the most profound given this particular ceremony, is this this row of justices right here, who I've come to know and understand more fully, who I have come to respect in such profound ways as I've watched them make decisions. You know, when you were singing the national anthem just a few minutes ago, in that, by the way, most remarkable way, I was touched by that, looking at the flag, thinking of this country and the original scripting of that song and where we were. And I was also reminded of where we're sitting today with Supreme Court justices, members of Congress, members of the General Assembly, the judicial branch, the governor's office, the executive branch here, and how remarkable it is that the founders came up with this plan to create this country that now, hundreds of years into, we sit on a stage like this and take, in large part, we take for granted. But for a moment, I'm reminded of the magnitude of even this moment and this oath of office and why this matters so much to the people of Tennessee. I tell my team frequently, there are 7 million people who hope that we will do it right. There are 7 million people who hope that we will set aside all the political and the nonsense and the things that we have to spend so much time with frequently. Those 7 million people are hoping that we'll set that aside and actually think about and do the thing which matters most to them. And the execution of justice, by the way, with mercy and love, that execution of justice is something that the people of Tennessee deserve. And the founders were so brilliant in their establishment of separations of powers, of the establishment of the Constitution, which Mary will swear to uphold, and understanding, in her understanding of the actual text of law and the importance of that, and not just political opinions of judges or politicians like myself. But this whole system that's been structured and laid out and put in place, it matters deeply to the people of this state. And because of that, this is a really important day, because it matters who sits in that seat and has the enormous responsibility to execute on that justice, which is why I take this part of my job incredibly seriously, and I count it as one of the highest honors that I have and one of the highest responsibilities that I have. Mary Wagner has filled that seat for all the right reasons that people have articulated today, that her colleagues fully understand. And those of you who are attorneys, lawyers, judges, and in the judicial branch probably understand to a greater degree her fulfillment of the qualifications on the legal side to be sitting in this seat. But when I sat down with her, then I understood all the other reasons why she was qualified for this seat, why she'll find herself sitting alongside what I count as the best justices in the country, and a court that does, in fact, distinguish itself from other courts in this country. The people of Tennessee expect, deserve, and I believe would be grateful if they individually all understood how much these folks and Mary Wagner will pour their heart, seek God's wisdom and discernment, and execute that justice, mercy, and love on their behalf. It's a huge honor for me to be here with you today and to ask you to step up here and take this oath of office. Man, I like that tie. You're gonna be glad I did that one day when you look back. When you look back at the pictures, right now I'm annoying to you, but one day you're gonna be glad I did it. Yes, raise your right hand, please. I, Mary L. Wagner,
I, Mary L. Wagner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Tennessee,
and the state of Tennessee,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me
as Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Tennessee,
as Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Tennessee,
to the best of my skill and ability,
to the best of my skills and abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations, Justice Wagner.
Good afternoon. You really can't see in these lights. I'm going to endeavor to give some thank yous, and I'm certain I'm going to leave someone out, and so I apologize in advance because so many of you here today have played such an important part in my life and my career. First and foremost, Governor Lee, I thank you for your confidence in me and for allowing me to serve in this way. And I promise I'll get it right for those 7 million Tennesseans. To the governor's legal team, I would be remiss to not mention you, Aaron Merrick, Chief Counsel, and Rob and Alexa. You so diligently coordinated the interview process. It was hijacked by a week-long statewide snowstorm, if I recall. And then after the appointment, you so carefully guided me through the confirmation process and made it look effortless, but I know it was not, that it was just your efforts behind the scenes making it appear that way. And in the process, I made wonderful friends, so I thank you. To members of the General Assembly, I know that there are many of you here today. I can't see you right now, but I do thank you for your confidence in me and voting to confirm me to the Tennessee Supreme Court. You played a pivotal role as well in this process, and I thank you. To the Chief Justice and members of the court, many of you I have known for years throughout my career. Justice Tarwater was the first to call me judge. And each of you have been supportive and encouraging throughout my career, and I am so thankful to get to serve as colleagues and friends for the next many years. Justice Page, I got to know you first in 2016 when you were interviewing. I was lucky enough to be in that Senate hearing and observed your confirmation process. And later that year, you and Judge Gibson gave me questions in the conference room, prepping me for my interview with now Justice Tarwater as I applied for the trial court. And Brandon, I keep wanting to call you Chief, that's what everybody calls you. But I am so glad that you took me on as a friend in 2016, and you have guided me as a big sister would. You've been supportive and encouraging, but you're also always willing to tell me where like it is and tell me the truth and wear my name across your shirt. Judge Stafford, I have marked through all my comments for you. It was not the boots, it was the floor in the 100-year-old building that made them sound like that. But I thank you for being a constant supporter and encourager and a listening ear. Mayor Palazzolo and the city of Germantown, you have been gracious hosts and very welcoming to us for today's events, and we appreciate that. I think you all heard from members of the Houston Band, As a proud alum, I was so thankful that their students were willing to come and greet you in the lobby as they came in today. And I'm going to point out a few teachers, and I apologize if my remarks go a little longer. I think I saw one of them, his hair. Mr. Smith, my high school band director at the Houston Band, he also once mistakenly thought I was the quiet one when I was in high school, I think. I think Miss Tanner is also here, my 4th grade teacher. Her lessons in outlining and research papers with index cards carried me through law school. And Miss Garrison, I had a love-hate relationship with Miss Garrison's 11th grade English class. I loved Miss Garrison, I hated the class. Miss Garrison, I bet neither one of us ever thought I'd be writing for the Supreme Court during that class. But it was her pushing me and challenging me that gave me the writing skills that carried me through undergrad and law school and now here today. To members of the legal community, the Shelby County Bar, thank you so much for your support over the last 8 years. I know some of you were skeptical at first. One of you here today asked me on my first day if I was the new law clerk. I'm not going to call you out. The look on your face when I said, no, I'm the new judge, is all that I need. But I'm very thankful for so many of you becoming dear, dear friends and supporting me and encouraging me over the last 8 years. And many of you have told me over the summer, we will miss you when you're gone. I'm not gone. I just moved my office down the street a few blocks, so please don't be strangers. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. To those who helped put today together, Coble Caberton, Lauren Stemmick, Daryl Gresham, my dear assistant who's hiding behind the curtains, Emily Ray, my law clerks, Naira, Nick, and Kyle, who started last week and got told, guess what you're doing? And to those many firms who sponsored today, thank you for making this possible. It's been a wonderful event. To my family and close friends, you know who you are. I often get asked, especially as a female, how do you do it all? I don't do it all. I can't do it all. Rely on the help and support of many of those in this front row. My family, my friends, my parents, my kids' grandparents, my brothers and sister-in-law. They keep kids, they chauffeur kids, they feed kids. Even at times, they have helped nurse a dog who ate too many pacifiers back to health. But we couldn't do it without your love and support and help and prayers. And last but not least, my boys, 2 on stage and 1 sitting politely in the front row. I'm not sure when Judge Stafford married Tom and I, and he said for better or worse, that Tom realized I would in a few years be asking him to stand in a parking lot in 116-degree heat index with my name on his shirt. But he does everything with a smile most of the time. But my boys are key to me being able to do what I do. They roll with it, they sacrifice right alongside me, they support me in any way that I ask, and I am so thankful for all 3 of them. When I say that this is an opportunity of a lifetime and a dream come true, bigger than any dream I could have dreamt, I hope you know that that's not an understatement, and it is a mindset that I will use to guide my work for hopefully many years. Since a young age, the law and the legal system have intrigued me. When I was a trial judge, I started every jury trial by telling the jurors we have the best legal system in the world. And I wanted them to know that. I wanted them to be as excited as I am about it. We have a system, though it's not perfect, it's ingenious in many ways. It's a civil way to resolve disputes and ensure that our Constitution and our laws are upheld. It's a system that I was able to witness as a young child. I was just a couple years older than Ben here when I began spending the summers and school holidays at my parents' and grandfather's law office. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention my grandparents. They're not here today with us, but I know they're watching. I was blessed to be close with all 3 of them, especially one. Many of you might know him as Mr. McCullough, or Big Papa is what I called him. He was a lawyer and practiced in Memphis. One of my first days on the trial bench, Kim Johnson and Jerry Mitchell came to tell me a Calvin McCullough story. I'll never forget, I thought they were approaching the bench to tell me how we've done it for the last 30 years. And instead, they were wanting to tell me how my grandfather would try jury trials with onions in his handkerchief so he could draw a tear as he talked to the jury. I can assure you nobody would be more proud to be here today than Big Papa. As a child, I was not much for sitting around. Tom might tell you that hasn't changed a lot. And my parents didn't want to leave me at home as a 5th grader, and so I went to work with them and my grandfather. I learned to file subpoenas, file lawsuits. I pulled deeds on microfilm at the registrar's office, but most importantly, I watched court. With Chandler, one day when I was watching, Judge Chandler once threw a poodle at me. It wasn't a real poodle. You all knew Millie, the white poodle that lived under his bench. It was a stuffed poodle that he kept in his courtroom. When lawyers were taking themselves too seriously, he would just chunk it over the bench to break the ice a little bit. So I think we should get some stuffies for the bench, Justice Kirby. During those summers, I did many things. I learned to investigate auto accidents. There was a time Papa took me down Humphreys Boulevard, right where the road turns past Baptist Hospital. He pulled over to the side of the road. There's no bike lanes if you all are familiar with the area. Handed me a disposable camera he kept under his driver's seat. He says, now go out in that street and take a picture. That tree right there, the bark missing, that's the one the truck hit. He assured me he was watching my back as the cars were headed towards me. I often wonder what Mom thought we were doing that afternoon. But while I had a lot of fun, and maybe did a little dangerous things, I learned from them the value of the law. I saw the law being used to help people, to solve problems, and to make things better. I saw judges, mostly men back then, but individuals who strive to serve, not because of the robe or the title in front of their name, but because they loved the law, they loved the role that the law played, and they loved our community. Later on, I would get to clerk for 2 great judges, Judge Butch Childers and Judge Steve Stafford. To explain the breakfast casserole comment, it was a requirement that the law clerks brought breakfast on Fridays. Not sure your courtroom clerk appreciated the breakfast casserole as much as the rest of us. She always tells me she feels bad for Tom and my cooking skills. But I saw from these 2 judges what it meant to serve, what it meant to roll up your sleeves, to really study the law, to be advocates for our legal system, and to make the hard decisions. Sometimes the unpopular decisions, sometimes the decisions that might be misunderstood. But truly meaningful work and dedication to upholding the law and advocating for our legal system. When I first applied to be a judge, I was reviewing the Code of Judicial Conduct, and I was struck and continue to be struck by the preamble and how wonderfully it sets out the role of the judiciary and the importance of the judiciary. So I'm going to read it to you. An independent, fair, and impartial judiciary is indispensable to our system of justice. The United States legal system is based upon the principle that an independent, impartial, and competent judiciary composed of men and women of integrity will interpret and apply the law that governs our society. Thus, the judiciary plays a central role in preserving the principles of justice and rule of law. It then goes on to challenge the members of the judiciary to enhance the public's confidence in the legal system. And I would challenge all of you to help us to do that and enhance the public's confidence in our legal system. We are blessed in Tennessee to have a great judiciary at all levels. The Tennessee Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, the Court of Criminal Appeals, and our many trial courts across the state. Smart and committed men and women of integrity across the state who love the law, the role it serves in the great state of Tennessee. I am blessed and honored to get to be just one of them and to get to serve the state of Tennessee on the Tennessee Supreme Court. I thank you all tremendously, especially Governor Lee, for this opportunity. I thank you all for being here today and for your support and prayers. Thank you.
Now I think we have a couple of presentations from the Tennessee Bar Association and the Shelby County Bar Association. Ed Landquist from the president of the TBA and Adam Johnson, president of the Memphis Bar Association. So Justice Wagner, I believe they have something for you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you. I'm Adam Johnson. I'm the president of the Memphis Bar Association. And on behalf of the Memphis Bar Association, I am thrilled and pleased to present that gavel for you, Justice Wagner. I know the practitioners will be very sad to see you leave the circuit court bench, but we are so proud of you, and we look forward to a long, rewarding career with the Tennessee Supreme Court. So thank you.
You didn't think we'd get through it, did you? 8 years ago, I had the pleasure of participating in Justice Wagner's investiture as a trial judge. And I made some comments at that point in time that were in error. What I said was, Mary, enjoy it. You'll never be more popular than you were that day. I was wrong. Obviously, you're a lot more popular now than you were then. So enjoy it. On behalf of Justice Wagner and her family, we want to thank you for being here today. Taking time from a very busy schedule speaks volumes of your friendship, your respect, your love for Mary, Justice Wagner, and your respect for our system of justice in the state of Tennessee. Your presence is very much appreciated. I'm told now that as we're about to conclude, there's a reception, there's food outside. We would very much appreciate you staying, enjoying the food, and getting to speak with Justice Wagner and her family. Again, thank you so much for being here. Your presence is very much appreciated. Thank you.